Hi, this is a light overview of the Photoshop flying saucer poster exercise that's on the tutorial for TIJ10. The idea is to make a poster that's going to be 11 by 17, 11 inches by 17 inches at 200 dpi, dots per inch. And the way it's done is to basically take a background picture somewhere out in the environment in a good location, then to generate a 3D model that's in the right location, and then to combine the two in Photoshop. And just to give you a few tips on what seems to work really well. I took this picture, actually one of my students took this picture, and we chose this location because it was a great big area that could accept the saucer and a shadow nice and predictably. And I also had shadows as references. And I put my figure where it would be sort of rule of thirds, but in front of the saucer to help create a depth cue. Next, I took that photo and cropped it down to exactly 3,400 pixels by 2,200 pixels. That's 11 by 17. At exactly 200 dots per inch. Took that photo and I put it into Animator. And in Animator, there's my model of the flying saucer I want to put in there. But if I change the mode to Scene, and if I put that photo into the background, making sure the movie image settings are set to the same thing, 34 by 22, you can predictably say this is where the saucer can go and this is where the figure is. And then it was really important to match the angle of the virtual camera and the lighting so it matched the image, the background image. So the camera was set to being horizontal. I double clicked it and changed a value here in the orientation so it was horizontal to match the camera that was actually out there. And from the top view, I actually worked kind of hard on this to try to make sure that from the top view the camera angles matched as well. If this is where the building would be and this is where the grass would be, the camera would be about here, aimed in this direction, and the lighting would be angled just about the same. And inside of this model, I also created this big flat sheet of what was eventually going to be concrete, and I gave it the color of gray so it would match that bottom here, and this would accept a shadow, because once we get this thing going, if we've double clicked the light and told it that we would like it to create shadows, and if we told the saucer that we'd like it to cast and receive shadows, and if we take this gray thing here, it's just a great big huge surface done with an N-gon, and I tell it that it should receive shadows. When we take this thing and we do a render of it, it's going to give us a pretty decent shadow. I'll do a real quick and dirty one there. There's a real rough version of what it would come out like, but there's a shadow that's imposed on the thing, and it's placed in such a place that it'll actually show where the shadow is going to fall. And in Photoshop, we'll start putting the pieces together. Okay? So closing that, I then rendered the entire thing just as it was, and I actually rendered it with the background too in one of the incarnations of it. Put the bits and pieces together, and here's where the layers kind of come together. You got to do a lot of more Photoshop work, but your background starts in the bottom. Next, you can introduce the saucer, and the saucer, if you select away the parts that you don't want, just sort of floats there above the figure. So then I selected out the figure from the background and gave the figure his own layer right there. So that puts the figure in front of the saucer. And then we start building on some of the things that create some more believability to it. The shadow, we can select out. We can change the shadow's mode to multiply and change its opacity and change its color till it sort of matches the shadows in the area. And then next thing it helps is to fix the pavement a little bit. I actually spray painted a little bit of pavement from here over here so it wouldn't bring out the shadow from the background. I kind of covered over that. And then let's see what was next. We put the figure shadow in place. Actually just selected it from there, moved it up there, warped it a little bit, changed its opacity so it would sort of go over where the saucer should be. And what was next? Let's see, we did a little shadow fix because there was a flaw that was taking place here. I just created a whole new layer here and just spray painted using the clone stamp tool, spraying in that area so you get a fix that looks something like that, just to make it blend in a little bit better. And by the time it's all done, you can sign it and you've got yourself your poster with all the shadows and all the depth cues intact. So that's the overview of it. You can look at the in-depth of how step-by-step these things are done, but this is what you're trying to recreate. Good luck.